Hello, Richard Tromans here again at Artificial Lawyer TV. Today we're doing something of a news analysis and hopefully a product walkthrough. The company we're looking at today is Athennian, which is a legal entity management system, which, as you will have seen if you have read the story slightly above this video, they have just gained $8 million in funding. Now, I guess one of the key questions you're asking is, what on earth is legal entity management and why is it so important? To help us with this is Adrian Camara at Athennian. Hi, Adrian. Glad to have you on the show.
Hi, Richard. Thanks for having me.
Pleasure. So let's start off with the basics. Actually, before we even get to the basics, Adrian, what is your role in the company? You're one of the founders, I take it.
Yeah. So I'm one of the founders. So there are three other founders. We started the company in 2017, and I'm also the CEO and on the board as well.
Okay, awesome. So yeah, so effectively 3 years getting to this point, to this big
Yeah.
funding. We'll come to the funding in a moment. So first question, what is legal entity management and why does it matter?
Yeah. So legal entity management. So as it describes its own category, it's the management of legal entities or business entities. So our customers are primarily law firms and legal departments in mid to large size companies that are managing a high volume, so typically 40 or 50 plus legal or business entities. So corporations, LLCs, limited partnerships, trusts. And then when we start looking at international jurisdictions, we start having more exotic flavors of business entities. And so legal entity management is sort of at the intersection of legal compliance, tax, and finance workflows within organizations. It's often described as primarily in the UK and Europe as company secretarial services. In North America, typically described as subsidiary governance. And so there's a couple different ways that it's described. But at its core, what it is managing the ownership, the control, the governance, and the compliance and tax perspectives or information related to these legal entities. So what the actual software looks like is it's actually very similar to a CRM, where each legal entity has a profile or a record, and then each human being has a contact record. And so it's really about creating relationships between people and these entities and between entities. And so relationships such as director and officer appointments, shareholders, power of attorney, different relationships like that. And so this data is primarily managed by paralegals or corporate secretary or subsidiary governance professionals. Again, the geographical flavoring there. And the data is leveraged to produce documents such as corporate org charts, are automated out of legal entity management software. And then what Athennian brings to the table that other products, the legacy products that we are displacing, is complete automation of corporate secretarial documents. So board resolutions, shareholder consents, stock certificates, dividend authorizations, various documents like this. And then typically our users are in charge of ensuring that they all get signed and then appropriately filed internally and also with government agencies.
Gotcha. So it's not just the management, which I guess, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I guess you could do that on a very fancy Excel spreadsheet.
Yeah, so typically, so we have two types of customers that join us. Customers that are coming from white space, so Excel, shared folders, different types of systems like that that tend to be on the smaller side and are growing their corporate structure and need a proper system. And then customers that are coming from legacy on-premise systems that want to get into cloud and they want more automation. And they tend to be larger and have existing workflows that we're migrating them into.
Gotcha. So, but for you, the real, you might say the killer application of your platform is the fact that you can then relatively easily create key documents from the data that's stored there.
Yeah, exactly. So the legal entity management space has essentially been a duopoly. So there's two legacy vendors, and that's why there hasn't been very much activity.
And who are they?
Yeah, so it would be GEMS, which is owned by ComputerShare, and Blueprint, which was recently acquired by Diligent and rebranded Diligent Entities. There's a few other, when you go into certain domestic jurisdictions, you'll find some. But when we think about who really controls the market, it's those two. And so they're very old legacy on-premise products. So what we find is the market is really looking for a true cloud native alternative. And the market is also in line with the momentum in legal operations and increased automation, is looking for workflow automation. So there's a huge amount of structured data in this market, and a huge amount of documents that need to be prepared. And so it's a natural fit for very high leverage document automation. And then all of the digital components of a complete workflow, like electronic signature and so on.
Gotcha. So just to put it very simply, using this system will save corporates money.
Yep, substantial amounts of money.
You sold it to me.
Yep.
If there's an economic benefit,
There's
you
a
won.
substantial economic benefit. Yeah. So, we essentially, triple or quadruple the effectiveness of a paralegal team that's managing subsidiaries through Athennian.
Gotcha, fantastic. And now to the, I guess the bit that is for everyone in your company must be very exciting. You've just received a very large amount of funding, $8 million, I understand.
Yep.
First of all, how did that come about? And I guess there's three parts. How did this come about? Two, what does it mean to you personally?
Yep.
Because when you get that kind of money, it's a validation of all the hard work that you've put in. I'm sure when you started, people said, "Hey, man, you're crazy." And then 3 years later, you're like, "Well, we just got $8 million in funding." And then thirdly, what are you going to use all this money for?
Yeah. Yeah. So how it came about. So we actually started the fundraising in March, right when COVID started. So obviously there was a lot of uncertainty there, and we closed it in July, and now announcing it. And so we are in that cohort of companies that was able to raise a substantial amount of money completely online. And we've actually never met in person. Patrick from Arthur, who is our lead on the deal. So that's sort of how it came about. And the reason is really just momentum. We're growing incredibly quickly. The barrier to entry into this market is product. The products are so large, and that's why it took us. We were essentially building product for 2 years and then started monetizing about 12 months ago. And so as you can imagine, the numbers in terms of revenue traction that we were able to generate within 12 months to warrant such a large financing is substantial. So it was really about momentum and the realization among investors that we're able to build the size of product that we did, and that had huge amounts of demand from a market with very little competition, as I described, essentially a duopoly. And so there's a lot of excitement from investors, and so the financing was way oversubscribed. We actually had to increase it several times in order to accommodate. And so it was very exciting to bring it together. And then, what it means to us personally, is really just validation that we're building the right product at the right time and for the right market. And those are things that are extremely hard to bring together at once. And what we're excited about is that we're bringing fresh talent, fresh capital, fresh ideas into a very stagnant market, and our users, paralegals, company secretaries, are very excited that we're bringing all that into where they work and substantially improving their work lives.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, congratulations on that. what will you be using this money for? I mean, you'll be hiring loads of new devs
Yeah.
and coders, or is that basically you've done that already and you need to spend this on marketing? I mean, where will this money go?
Yeah, so since March, we've doubled the size of the team. So in March we were 20
Mm.
full-time employees. Now we're just over 40. By the end of the year, we expect to be closer to 70 or 80. So we still have another doubling of the team to go here. And so really what the capital will be going towards is expanding the team. And that'll be around uh, product, obviously substantial investments in product. We'll be launching an open API, which is important for our customers, and then expanding sales in Europe and APAC.
Right, and that was actually going to be my last question, which is this is for a global audience. So, law firms and corporates, if they want to use it, all around the world. It's not just for US and Canada.
Yeah, that's right. So yeah, so Athenian supports entities in any jurisdiction globally. And our software is configurable to the statutory requirements of any jurisdiction globally. And we have customers on every continent except Antarctica.
So, for example, so the document production system that you've got, if somebody in the UK wanted to produce a kind of Isle of Man company secretarial documents for a bunch of trusts, for example, classic use, I guess, that would be possible using your system.
Correct. Yeah. So the documents are completely configurable from our customers. Most of our customers tend to bring their own documents into our system, and we have a services team that can help our customers get the documents configured for automation and uploaded into the system.
I see. So you've got a kind of, I don't know what you would call it, I guess like an LPO service almost in addition.
Correct.
And is the LPO side going to grow and grow? Because I mean, as you've seen in the market, there's a lot of interest in this kind of capability.
Yeah, we're going to try to stay focused on being a technology company. Obviously, uh, in legal, it's very easy for technology companies to become services companies, just because there's so much hunger for more efficient services.
Mm.
You know, that's a fine line we have to walk, and so we're very focused on making it easier for our customers to configure documents for automation in our system. So for example, we've recently released a plugin for Microsoft Word that allows our customers to essentially drag and drop document automation components into their templates. So yeah, so that's what we'll be focused on, and also on developing partners to be able to provide services as well.
Awesome. Thank you, Adrian. That's great. Well, that's all we've got time for. But thank you very much and congratulations on the funding.
Thank you, Richard.
Now we're going to do a quick walkthrough of Athenian. Adrian, take it away.
Thanks so much. So we are right now looking at a entity profile, Dunder Mifflin Inc. I selected this from the list of entities that's available right here. And so what I'll show you is sort of the scope of information that we're managing. So right now we're just looking at an overview page, but on the left-hand side we can see all of the navigation menus here to describe the type of information we're managing. So everything from a company's type, its registration number, its home jurisdiction, all the way through to addresses. And registrations or jurisdictions where it's qualified to conduct business or has other types of registrations. Moving down, we can see we are managing the type of information that would be stored inside of a company's operating agreement, if it's an LLC or articles or charter of incorporation. All of this information is tied into business logic that we use for different types of automation. Under the securities tab, we have shares, or if you're American, stock, options and warrants. We have complete automation for various types of share transactions. So everything from issuances, transfers, redemptions, all the way through to more complex things like different flavors of share swaps, so exchanges and conversions. Tracking stock certificates as well, and the reasons for why they've all been issued, canceled, transferred, and so on. Also full dividend and distribution management as well. Substantial use case for Athennian is tracking directors, officers, powers of attorney, managers, and other types of what we call principals. So you can track those within the entity. So you can see exactly the complete history of all the directors and officers and other administrators of a company. Again, appointing and resigning principals. We have complete document automation to generate all of the appointment and resignation resolutions and consents, government forms, and so on. Another substantial use case for Athennian is storing the minute book in a digital format. So we have a feature here called the virtual minute book that our users really like, where documents can be stored, and then they are, the actual structure, the file structure is viewed as a table of contents, such that you can click on a document and actually see it. And downloading OCR, there's a lot of automation within here. Another big use case is automated corporate structure charts, or sometimes called tax or org charts. And so we're leveraging all the ownership relationships within the system. I'll just zoom around here in order to create this structure. And we can see here support for various types of IRS standard symbols for the entities. Task management is a substantial use case as well. So our users are typically, when they're coming from legacy systems, one of the big things that's attracting them is the workflow and the workflow management. And so an example of that is in our tasks. So we can create a task for pretty much any type of action. So formation, change of directors or officers, stock transactions, dividends, mergers and amalgamations, all the way through to dissolution. When within a task, we can generate documents. So I'll generate some formation documents for this entity here. We can also direct e-file throughout Canada and the United States with government agencies, and we're adding UK Companies House in 2021. So when we look at documents that have been created, we see we've created the bylaws, the articles of incorporation, and this government form. I can open up the bylaws, and they will be assembled using all the data that we specified in the profile. From here, this document can be edited in Office 365 and Word Online, and we can also send it out for electronic signature via DocuSign. I won't go through with that. I think most people understand how DocuSign works, but it'll send it to DocuSign and then keep a copy inside of Athennian and keep the two versions in sync. And when it's completed in DocuSign, it'll be brought back into Athennian. So that's a high level summary of how Athennian works. We could spend hours in here. There's lots of very interesting and very useful tools, but I'll stop there.